Hello, and welcome back to English in Fluency. I'm Alex, and I'm so glad you're here with me today. Have you ever felt that frustrating feeling, that heavy sigh, when you look at how far you still have to go in your English journey? You might be thinking, I'm still making mistakes, or I still don't sound like a native speaker. And maybe you feel like your big goal, fluency, is just too far away to even be worth reaching for. It's a completely normal feeling, a common roadblock. We all focus so much on that huge finish line, that perfect, flawless level of English, that we often forget to look down and see how many incredible steps we've already taken. But what if I told you the secret to truly unlocking your English confidence isn't about ignoring those big mistakes, but about learning to celebrate the tiny victories? It's about recognizing the small wins every single day, turning those quick, successful moments into the fuel that powers your long journey. Today, we're going to practice listening. We're going to practice speaking. And most importantly, we're going to practice changing your mindset so you can turn those little moments of success into real, lasting confidence in your English ability. Get ready to stop waiting for perfection and start celebrating your progress right now with deep dives into strategies that work. I want to start with a story about someone named Maya. Maya was a talented engineer who had moved to London for a new job. She was brilliant in her technical field, managing complex data and solving technical problems that baffled others, but her English speaking felt stuck. She had been studying for years, achieving a strong reading score on her proficiency exams, and she could read complex technical documents perfectly, translating them flawlessly in her head. However, whenever she had to speak, especially in a meeting with quick, casual conversation happening around her, she would freeze up. It wasn't just the grammar, it was the speed, the accents, and the fear of making a visible public mistake. She often compared herself to her colleagues, like a native speaker named Daniel, who seemed to effortlessly crack jokes, participate in casual banter, and lead conversations with a completely natural flow. She would leave meetings feeling defeated, thinking, "My English is terrible. I'm never going to catch up." Maya's huge goal, to speak English as naturally and casually as Daniel, felt impossible, like a distant, unreachable star. Her boss, Mr. Thompson, a calm and observant man, had noticed her talent for analysis, but also her deep shyness when it came to verbal contribution. One Tuesday, Mr. Thompson called her into his office, not to criticize her English, but to talk about a new, high-stakes project. He said, with complete trust in her abilities, "Maya, I need you to lead the analysis on the structural integrity report. This involves deep calculations, and I know this is your specialty. I need your summary by the end of the week." Maya felt a jolt of anxiety that traveled from her stomach right up to her throat. She knew the material inside and out. The numbers were her language. But presenting her findings in English to a room full of senior managers? That was a terrifying scenario, a massive, unmanageable goal. Let's pause here for a quick practice, focusing on the simple power of a positive affirmation. I want you to repeat after me, focusing on the rhythm and the simple sentence structure. Try to say it with a feeling of determination. Even if you're just reading the words now, we are committing to a small, achievable focus today. I will focus on today's victory, not tomorrow's perfection. Say that one more time, focusing on the clear sound of the initial I vowel. I will focus on today's victory, not tomorrow's perfection. Excellent. This is the seed we're planting in your mind right now. A commitment to recognizing immediate success. The next day, Maya had a small team meeting to discuss the initial findings. She had prepared a detailed analysis, but her original plan was to hand her summary notes over to Daniel to present, allowing her to stay safely in the background. As the meeting started, Mr. Thompson, perhaps sensing her intention, looked directly at her and said, "Maya, why don't you walk us through the first 3 points? Just the summary of the key findings, please." Panic flared in Maya's chest, hot and fast. She swallowed, looked down at her notes, and started speaking. Her voice trembled a little, betraying her nervousness, and she mispronounced the word schedule as schedule, emphasizing the first syllable incorrectly, which made her blush immediately. But, crucially, she corrected herself instantly with a quick, "I mean schedule," and kept going, refusing to let that small slip stop her flow. She managed to explain the first 3 points of her analysis in less than 2 minutes, using clear, simple sentences to convey complex ideas. When she finished, Daniel smiled and nodded enthusiastically, and Mr. Thompson said, with genuine approval, "That was clear and concise, Maya. The data is exactly what we needed. Thank you." As she sat down, a familiar wave of disappointment washed over her because she kept replaying the memory of mispronouncing that one word. She thought, "I still sound so awkward. I'll never be truly fluent." But then, something shifted. She remembered a piece of advice her old university professor, who was an expert in English literature and language acquisition, had given her. Mistakes are proof that you are trying, and that you are speaking at the edge of your ability. Instead of focusing on the embarrassing schedule, Maya decided to focus on the powerful, positive facts. She had spoken for 2 continuous minutes in a professional meeting, corrected a pronunciation mistake instantly without breaking down, and delivered a clear summary that her senior boss praised. That, she realized, was her first significant small win of the week. This moment of self-correction and continued communication is a foundational B1/B2 skill. This reflection on self-correction is a critical moment for your own English confidence. Think about the last time you spoke English. Did you make a mistake, perhaps using the wrong tense or preposition? Of course you did. We all do, every day. But what was the small win hidden in that moment? Was it successfully using a new, complex vocabulary word you learned last week? Was it understanding a fast question that required quick comprehension? Was it simply not switching back to your native language, even though you felt the urge to give up? I want you to try a simple English-speaking exercise right now to capture that feeling of success. Think of one small victory you had in English this week. Maybe you asked for directions in English, or you understood the punchline of a joke, or you wrote a coherent email. Now, I want you to say this sentence out loud, filling in the blank with your personal victory. Speak with pride. This week, I successfully managed to break, and that is a concrete, definite win. Take a moment now. Say it out loud. Don't worry about perfect pronunciation or grammar in this moment. The absolute point is to acknowledge the win and connect it to positive emotion. Maya realized that if she waited until she spoke English perfectly, without a single error, she would never, ever celebrate, and her motivation would run dry. She started creating a mental and physical list of small wins. keeping a little notebook on her desk, labeled Proof of Progress. The next day, she got a slightly bigger win, one focused on social interaction, a key element of fluency. She was walking past the office kitchen, and Daniel, her native English-speaking colleague, asked her casually, "Hey Maya, are you free for a quick chat at lunch? I wanted to go over that data set." Maya's first instinct was the usual response, to say, "No, I'm busy," or "I have another thing," because she dreaded the unstructured small talk that often precedes a technical discussion. But she took a deep breath, remembering her commitment to finding small wins, and said clearly and directly, "Yes, I am. I'd be happy to. Where should we meet in about 10 minutes?" Simple, natural, and direct. When she sat down with Daniel, the conversation naturally drifted to weekend plans before they got to the data. She managed to use the complex but common phrasal verb catch up correctly. When she said, "I need to catch up on some reading this weekend. The new science journal just arrived." Daniel didn't correct her English. He didn't even notice her English as a separate thing. He just responded immediately to her point about the book she was reading. This was a huge step, a breakthrough in natural conversation. She didn't sound like a textbook reciting rules. She sounded like a person having a real conversation, using authentic, conversational English. She mentally checked off her second small win, which she wrote in her notebook. Participated in 5 minutes of unscripted small talk with a native speaker and used a new phrasal verb, catch up, correctly and naturally. Let's integrate this idea into your listening practice by focusing on the smooth delivery of conversational phrases. I'm going to tell you a short sentence, and I want you to listen not just for the words, but for the emotion and the natural flow, noticing how the sounds link together. The sentence is, "It felt good to use that new idiom in the conversation today, didn't it?" Listen again, hearing the linkage between felt good and didn't it. "It felt good to use that new idiom in the conversation today, didn't it?" Now, try to say it exactly as I did, matching the emphasis on felt good and new idiom. This exercise is important because celebrating a win is an emotional act, and connecting positive emotion, like the satisfaction of a clear delivery, to your English practice makes your memory stronger and builds real, lasting, intrinsic confidence. Maya continued this process diligently. She noticed that the more she consciously acknowledged her small wins, the less power her big, embarrassing mistakes had over her. She used to spend hours replaying awkward moments in her head, letting them dominate her mood and confidence. Now, she would still remember a mistake, but she'd quickly counter it with a small victory from her notebook. For example, during a detailed project presentation later that week, she got mixed up between the verb affect and the noun effect, completely confusing the audience for a moment. It was a clear grammatical error. But immediately after that slip, she was asked a complex, multi-part question about the budget projections, requiring high-level comprehension and quick thinking. She managed to paraphrase the long, complicated question back to the person to check her understanding. A brilliant, strategic B2 speaking tactic called the clarification request. And then answered the core points clearly and accurately. She didn't let the mistake derail her performance. She wrote down her comprehensive win for the day. Mistook affect and effect, but successfully used clarification request strategy. "So, you mean?" and answered a complex, two-part question clearly under pressure. Notice how she didn't try to erase the mistake from her record. She simply put the substantial, high-value win right next to it, immediately making the win bigger and more prominent in her mind than the error. This is a crucial mental habit. Now it's your turn to practice that high-value speaking strategy, the clarification request. I'm going to give you a slightly complex and fast statement, and I want you to practice paraphrasing it to check your understanding. This is a real-world, high-stakes B1/B2 speaking skill that makes you sound professional. The statement is, the management team decided that due to the unexpected delay in the procurement of the necessary specialized thermal components from the overseas supplier, we will, unfortunately, have to push the final release date back by a minimum of 3 full working weeks. That's a lot of technical jargon and complexity. Your job is to simplify and clarify the core idea. You could say, so, if I understand correctly, because the parts from outside are late, the launch is delayed by 3 weeks? Try it. Say that clarification question out loud right now, focusing on a slightly upward, questioning intonation at the end. Say, so, if I understand correctly, because the parts from outside are late, the launch is delayed by 3 weeks? That feeling of successfully simplifying and verifying a complex idea is a powerful small win, and you should celebrate it immediately. Let's move to a new character, Liam, who was learning English primarily through self-study, immersing himself in movies and music because he loved the culture. Liam's huge, vague goal was to understand a 2-hour movie without needing subtitles, which seemed like an impossible mountain to climb. He loved action movies and thrillers, and the dialogue was often fast, full of unfamiliar slang, delivered with thick, varying accents, and sometimes mumbled under explosions. He would sit down, turn off the subtitles, and after 5 minutes, he would feel completely lost, frustrated by the pace and complexity, quickly turning the subtitles back on and feeling like a complete failure. He focused on the single massive win: understand a whole 2-hour movie. Since he never achieved it, he never felt good about his progress, leading to a motivational crash every few weeks. One evening, Liam's English tutor, a thoughtful, patient person named Sarah, noticed his deep frustration during their weekly session. She asked him gently, "Liam, let's get specific. How many individual complete lines of dialogue did you truly understand in the first 5 minutes of the movie The Last Frontier when you tried yesterday?" Liam thought for a moment, reviewing the small snippet in his memory. "Maybe 10 lines? I got the general idea of 10 lines, I think." Sarah smiled, recognizing the progress he was overlooking. "Exactly. And last month, you told me you could only get 3 lines of dialogue in 5 minutes. So, your win isn't understanding the whole movie yet. Your win is understanding 10 lines of dialogue from a fast-paced action movie without subtitles. That is a huge improvement. A 300% increase in comprehension. That's massive, observable progress." Sarah then introduced the crucial concept of micro-goals in comprehension. She told Liam to stop trying to conquer the whole mountain in one day. Instead, she asked him to look for one specific cultural reference or one piece of complicated, genuine slang in a short segment of a movie, and then successfully look it up, understand its context, and verify its usage. That was his new, highly specific micro-goal. The next day, Liam watched the movie again, deliberately looking for something he didn't know. A character said to another, "Don't sweat the small stuff, man." Liam paused the movie immediately. He didn't know the phrase, "sweat the small stuff." He looked it up. He discovered it is a very common idiom that means, "Don't worry or stress about the unimportant, minor things." He immediately used it in a text message to his English-speaking friend, David, who was worried about a small, low-grade assignment for university. David responded with a simple, "Good advice. I needed to hear that." Liam literally jumped up from his chair. His concrete win for the day: learned a new, genuine, extremely common idiom. Don't sweat the small stuff, and used it correctly in a real-life text message interaction, receiving positive feedback. This was a powerful, concrete, and immediately gratifying victory, completely different from the vague, unattainable goal of understanding the whole movie. Let's practice this, listening for micro-goals and genuine language. I'm going to say a short, useful, idiomatic phrase that you often hear in casual conversation. I want you to listen carefully and then repeat the phrase out loud, focusing on the natural, quick, connected speech. The phrase is, "Every cloud has a silver lining, you know." Say it back to me now, trying to link the words together smoothly. Every cloud has a silver lining, you know. This idiom means that even difficult, negative, or sad situations always contain a positive side or opportunity. Now, create a simple sentence using this idiom. You could say, "Losing my old job was hard, but every cloud has a silver lining, because now I have a much better one with more challenge." Say your sentence out loud, or use my example. The moment you use a new idiom correctly in a constructed sentence, that is a gold standard small win for you, because you have moved from recognition to active production. Liam started hunting for small wins like a cultural detective. When listening to English music, which he loved, he used to be upset that he couldn't grasp the full poetic song lyrics. Now, he would listen for one phrase that sounded unique, confusing, or particularly beautiful. He found a song with the line, "We're burning the candle at both ends lately. I'm exhausted." He loved the vivid imagery of the phrase. He looked it up. Working too much, overextending yourself, from early morning until late at night. He wrote it down in his language journal. His victory for that listening session, which only took 10 minutes, decoded a complex metaphor or idiom, burning the candle at both ends, used in a piece of current media, music. When you find and understand one tiny, genuine piece of the language that native speakers actually use, you have accomplished something concrete and valuable. You didn't just listen passively. You actively mastered a piece of English culture and lexicon. I want you to think very specifically about your current English study routine. Do you spend all your time agonizing over complex grammar rules, or do you dedicate time to finding and celebrating these small, daily wins? Maybe your small win today is that you finally figured out the consistent difference between the present perfect simple, e.g., "I have lived here for 5 years," and the present perfect continuous, e.g., "I have been living here for 5 years." Maybe you learned that we say, "I look forward to hearing from you," and not, "I look forward to hear from you," correctly using the gerund after that specific phrasal verb. Whatever the technical detail or conversational success, I want you to say this sentence out loud, confirming your current path of celebrating small, incremental wins. I am finding the smaller pieces of English to celebrate, not just waiting for the big, distant milestones. Take a deep breath and say it with conviction. I am finding the smaller pieces of English to celebrate, not just waiting for the big, distant milestones. Let's return to Maya in the engineering office. Her confidence was slowly, consistently building because of her small win checklist and her commitment to focusing on the positive outcome. She was still making mistakes, of course, because that's part of the process. During a high-stakes presentation of a new diagram, she struggled to explain a complex graphical representation, resorting to pointing and saying, very simply, "This goes up and this goes down very quickly." It wasn't the eloquent, technical language she dreamed of, but she communicated the key, essential data point successfully. The audience understood the critical message. Later that day, she had a spontaneous conversation with a colleague about a weekend football match, and she found herself using natural, simple filler phrases like, "you know," or "let me think," or "hold on a second," when she needed a brief moment to structure her next English sentence or find a specific vocabulary word. She realized that these are not mistakes or weaknesses. They are natural human expressions and speaking strategies that allow even native speakers to buy time, maintain conversational flow, and sound less abrupt. She correctly evaluated that successfully using a filler phrase to avoid awkward silence was a win, because it made her sound more natural, less robotic, and kept the conversation moving forward without panic. We should practice that right now, because using filler phrases is an essential, high-value part of B1/B2 speaking fluency. It is tangible evidence that you are thinking in English and managing the conversation, even when you are actively searching for the exact right word. I'm going to ask you a general question, and I want you to answer it, but you must start your answer with the filler phrase, "Well, let me see," or "That's a good question." The question is, what is one piece of English advice you would give to someone who is just starting their learning journey? Take a moment now. Start with your filler phrase, and then answer the question in a simple, clear sentence or two. Say it out loud. The mere act of using that filler phrase correctly to manage the conversation is a win. Maya's small win focus started to affect the professional dynamics around her. Daniel, the native English speaker, noticed the positive change in her demeanor and contribution. He saw her speaking up more readily, even if she occasionally paused or searched for a word. He complimented her one day after a difficult morning review, saying, "Maya, your insights on the budget were absolutely spot on today. You explained the variables with perfect clarity, and your presentation of the risk factor was very reassuring." Notice that Daniel didn't praise her perfect English grammar or her lack of an accent. He praised her clear communication, strategic thinking, and valuable insights. This is a crucial lesson that Maya grasped. Fluency is not about achieving perfect grammar. It's about achieving effective, impactful communication. When you communicate your important idea clearly, even with a few mistakes or a noticeable accent, you have achieved the ultimate win. Your purpose in English is not to pass an arbitrary grammar test. It is to successfully connect with another human being and exchange meaning. Let's focus on clear, effective communication in your listening practice. I'm going to give you two short, slightly complex sentences. I want you to listen to them and then focus only on the core message. not the complexity of the grammar. The message itself is the win. Sentence 1. Despite the low start-in budget and the initial projections of failure, the final launch result was, surprisingly, an incredible commercial success. Sentence 2. They are planning to postpone the crucial quarterly meeting until Friday afternoon because of the unexpected scheduling conflict that arose with the international sales team. Now, try to tell me the core, essential idea of each sentence in the simplest, clearest English possible. For sentence 1, you might simplify and say, low money, but big commercial success happened. For sentence 2, you might say, the important meeting is now Friday, not today, because of a conflict. Say your simplified, clear versions out loud now. When you can successfully distill a complex, detailed sentence into a simple, clear meaning, you have achieved a significant small win in practical comprehension and re-articulation. Now, let's check back in with Liam and his movie-watching goal. He stopped the counterproductive cycle of trying to understand the whole film at once. Instead, he started watching the first 5 minutes of 3 different movies or TV shows every day. His revised achievable goal was to find and understand just one new piece of casual conversational language in each 5-minute clip, for a total of 3 wins per day. One movie had a character say, "I'm beat after that long run." He looked it up and confirmed its meaning. "I'm very tired or exhausted." Another character, discussing a plan, said, "That's a no-brainer. Let's do it." He looked it up. "That's an easy decision that requires no thought." A third character, complimenting someone's work, said, "You nailed it. That report is perfect." He looked it up. "You did it perfectly," or achieved great success. Liam wasn't just struggling to understand 10 lines anymore. He was actively collecting and internalizing real-world, natural, highly useful English that he could immediately employ in his own speaking and writing. After a week of this focused study, his active vocabulary wasn't just academic words from textbooks. It was living, breathing, current English that felt authentic. This focused, micro-goal approach is incredibly powerful because it directs your attention and rewards effort. When you look for one specific thing, your brain is trained to find it. And when it successfully finds it, you get that small, positive rush of dopamine. This is the celebration of the small win, turning into a self-reinforcing learning loop that drives further motivation. I want you to try this now, focusing your listening only on one detail. I'm going to read a short paragraph, and your single specific goal is to find one unique piece of vocabulary or one phrase that you might use yourself in a conversation this week. The weather here in the coastal city has been utterly unpredictable lately, which is frustrating. 1 minute, it's brilliant sunshine, and the very next, we are completely soaked by a sudden, intense downpour. I had planned to go for a long jog by the seaside, but I had to scrap that idea completely and just stick to my indoor exercises. It's a bummer, I admit, but you absolutely have to roll with the punches when dealing with the unpredictable coastal climate. What was the word or phrase you picked up and understood? Maybe it was utterly unpredictable, or intense downpour, or the fantastic idiom roll with the punches, meaning to cope with difficulties as they arise and be flexible. Say the phrase you chose out loud, committing to using it. I am going to use the phrase "tattukis" in my English practice this week, starting tomorrow. That small, specific commitment to active use is a win in itself, marking the move from passive comprehension to active production. The cumulative effect of Maya's daily, recognized wins became massive and undeniable. After just 2 months of this systematic approach, Mr. Thompson asked her to take on a new, high-responsibility role, training a new junior engineer, a young man named Alex, not me, another Alex. She was nervous about the responsibility of teaching in English, but she realized that her internal monologue had completely changed. She was no longer thinking, "My English isn't good enough for this complex task," but rather, "I know the material better than anyone, and I will find a way to communicate these technical procedures clearly and effectively." She began the first training session by setting a confident, professional tone. She said, "Welcome, Alex. We have a lot of complex procedures to cover today, so let's get right to it. If you have any questions, no matter how small or large, please just jump in and ask." Simple, direct, and professional. During the training, she even used a complex structural term, a word she had struggled to remember and pronounce correctly for a year. And she used it correctly and effortlessly, without even pausing to think about it. That moment of effortless, correct usage was the biggest win of all, because it wasn't planned. It was organic fluency emerging naturally from the solid foundation of celebrated small successes. This is the beautiful, inevitable result of celebrating the small wins. They build a consistent, solid foundation so strong that real, natural, organic fluency begins to emerge without forced effort. The struggle to remember a particular word or grammatical structure disappears because you have used it so many times in successful, celebrated, small win moments that it is now seamlessly integrated into your English operating system, moving from conscious effort to subconscious habit. Let's focus on cultivating this organic fluency in your speaking practice. I'm going to give you a simple, non-technical prompt, and I don't want you to pre-plan or translate your answer in your head. Just let the words come out naturally, using simple, clear English. The goal is not perfection or complexity, but to communicate a simple idea without pausing for internal translation. The prompt is, tell me one thing you look forward to doing this weekend and why that activity makes you happy. Speak your answer out loud now. Did you communicate the idea clearly? Did you use the simple past tense or the simple future tense consistently and correctly? If you managed to do that without translating first, that is a huge win for spontaneous speech production. I also want to introduce you to a third character, Chen, a retired high school history teacher who was learning English simply for the joy of intellectual engagement and cultural discovery. Chen wasn't focused on job interviews, salary negotiations, or business presentations. His big, vague, and initially intimidating goal was to understand and actively participate in high-level English language book clubs and discussions. When he first tried attending a club online, he found the discussions too fast, the vocabulary used by others too obscure, and the intellectual concepts too challenging to formulate and express clearly in his current English. He quit after 2 frustrating meetings, feeling his age and lack of formal recent study were insurmountable obstacles. Chen's friend, Emily, who was a compassionate and experienced English teacher, helped him reframe his massive goal. She said, "Chen, let's not aim for leading the discussion or giving a 10-minute monologue. Let's aim for one single, relevant, meaningful contribution per meeting." Chen embraced this idea. His first small win was to attend the next book club meeting, and when asked what he thought of the main character's central motivation, he simply said, clearly and with confidence, "The main character's decisions were often confusing to me, especially in the third chapter." The sentence was simple, direct, grammatically correct, and, most importantly, directly relevant to the core discussion. It allowed the group to respond to him and engage his perspective. After the meeting, he celebrated this small win in his journal. Successfully contributed one relevant, complete, and comprehensible thought to a fast-moving group discussion. The next meeting, he aimed for a slightly bigger win: to ask a concise, intelligent follow-up question after someone else spoke. When another member, Maria, gave a long analysis of the historical context, Chen waited for a polite pause, and then asked with genuine curiosity, "Maria, that was very interesting. Could you explain what you meant by narrative arc just one more time, please? I want to make sure I understand the literary term." He used a perfect clarifying and engaging question structure. Maria was delighted to elaborate and explain the term in simpler language, and Chen's simple, correct English allowed him to interact on a high intellectual level, steering the conversation. His win: used an engaging, polite follow-up question to deepen his understanding and successfully participate in the discussion flow. This is the profound power of the small win. It allows you to successfully participate in a high-level, complex environment before you are fully ready according to your own standards. It strategically bridges the gap between your current English ability and your huge, ultimate fluency goal by granting access to real-world practice. Let's practice this key skill: asking a concise, relevant follow-up question. This is a massive speaking win because it shows engagement, high-level listening, and confidence. I'm going to say a statement, and I want you to immediately respond with a simple, polite question, asking for more details or information. My statement is, I recently took a week-long solo trip deep into the coastal mountains, and the time away completely changed my professional perspective on my daily work and priorities. Now, ask me a genuine follow-up question. You could say, "Oh, really? That sounds fascinating. What specifically changed about your perspective after the trip?" Say your question out loud now. The ability to generate and deliver that kind of engaging question immediately is a great, measurable win. Chen's confidence grew so much that he began using his English to help others, moving from taking to giving. He met a new student, Sarah, who was struggling with reading simple English news articles, feeling overwhelmed by the density. Chen didn't offer to simply translate everything. Instead, he started reading one challenging paragraph a day with her, guiding her through the structure and vocabulary. His small win wasn't solely about his own learning anymore, but about using his acquired English ability to successfully mentor and help another person. He discovered that teaching is a profound and powerful way to solidify your own knowledge, and every time he had to patiently explain a simple grammatical rule to Sarah, that rule became clearer and more automatic in his own mind. His wins were now: successfully explained the use of the past continuous tense to a beginner student and saw the understanding on her face. Helped Sarah understand a complicated compound sentence structure in a difficult news article, allowing her to grasp the full meaning. Your English journey is not just about what you can take in and absorb. It is also profoundly about what you can give out, share, and explain. I want you to think about that now. Who is one person in your life? A family member? A friend? A coworker? You could practice a small piece of English with. Or who is one person you could genuinely help by explaining a simple concept? Say this sentence out loud, committing to this outward-focused win. I will use my current English ability to successfully help one other person with a simple task this week. That is a goal that can lead to a wonderful, motivating, high-value win. Let's quickly review the three characters' journeys and how they successfully celebrated their wins, as their strategies hold the key for you. Maya's win strategy. She focused on effective communication and strategic management in a professional setting, like successfully paraphrasing a complex question under pressure, or using a filler phrase naturally to buy time. Her win was showing up, delivering the message clearly, and managing the conversation, even when mistakes occurred. Liam's win strategy. He focused on decoding and internalizing real-world, natural, authentic language, like finding one new idiom in a movie, understanding the meaning of a piece of current slang, or using a phrasal verb correctly in a text. His win was mastering a tiny, genuine piece of the living language used by native speakers. Chen's win strategy. He focused on meaningful, high-quality engagement in a high-level environment, like contributing one relevant thought or asking one intelligent follow-up question in a book club. His win was successful, impactful interaction, and maintaining his seat at the table. Your English journey will require a mixture of all three of these strategies. You need to communicate clearly, Maya, understand natural English, Liam, and engage confidently with others, Chen. Every single day, you can and must find a win in at least one of these three fundamental areas. I want you to make a commitment right now, a specific, actionable one. I'm going to give you a specific daily small win you can hunt for starting tomorrow. Say this sentence out loud, committing to this clear action. Tomorrow, I will listen to an English podcast or news report for 15 minutes, and my specific win will be understanding the main topic and 3 supporting details without needing to translate any major words. Say that. Tomorrow, I will listen to an English podcast or news report for 15 minutes, and my specific win will be understanding the main topic and 3 supporting details without needing to translate any major words. If you achieve that, you have a massive quantifiable win in your listening comprehension. Even if you miss a few minor words, you got the main idea and the crucial supporting details. That is a high-level B1/B2 listening success. Let's look even deeper into the science behind this strategy. When you successfully complete a small task and then consciously celebrate that win, your brain releases a powerful neurotransmitter called dopamine. Dopamine is not just the pleasure chemical. It is much more importantly the motivation chemical and the reward-driven learning chemical. It tells your brain very clearly that specific behavior felt good and was rewarded. You should prioritize and repeat that behavior again. Every time you check off a small win, I used a new word correctly in an email. I understood a full, complex sentence on the radio. I successfully spoke English for 5 continuous minutes without switching to my native language. You are giving yourself a small, positive, reinforcing dose of dopamine. You are literally rewiring your brain to seek out and enjoy learning English, associating the process with satisfaction instead of frustration. The confidence you are diligently building is not just a vague, pleasant feeling. It is a measurable, consistent neurological change driven by celebrating these tiny, consistent successes. This is the ultimate scientific tool for overcoming that debilitating fear of speaking and the common feeling of stagnation. Imagine Maya on her biggest day, the culmination of all her small wins, the day she had to lead the entire quarterly financial review for Mr. Thompson and the executive board. The presentation was 30 minutes long, involving extremely complex financial data, risk assessments, and future projections. The professional pressure was immense. She knew she couldn't rely on luck or simply memorized sentences. She relied on the bank of small, tested wins she had built over months. Before the meeting, she didn't focus on the paralyzing fear of not making a single mistake. Instead, she focused on her past, concrete wins. I handled the structural report clearly. I used the phrasal verb catch up naturally in conversation. I answered a multi-part question under pressure successfully. When she stood up to present, she was calm, centered, and professional. Midway through, a very senior, intimidating manager asked an extremely difficult, unexpected question designed to test the limits of her data and her composure. It was a high-stress, make-or-break moment, and she took a necessary, professional deep breath. She didn't have the immediate, perfect, exact answer ready to hand. But instead of freezing or apologizing for her English, she used her practiced, natural, strategic English. She smiled, maintained eye contact, and said, with perfect professional timing, "That is an excellent and fair point, Mr. Stevens. I don't have the exact, granular percentage to hand in this moment, but based on the established trend we've rigorously observed over the last 2 full quarters, I can confidently project that the figure is safely positioned between X and Y." She spoke slowly, with absolutely perfect pronunciation, a strong professional tone, and unwavering confidence. Her English was clear, her response was strategic and professional, and her communication of the projection was outstanding. The room, particularly Mr. Thompson, nodded in distinct approval. Her small win in that critical moment was using a strategic, confident, B2-level phrase, "I don't have the exact percentage to hand," to professionally buy time, manage the expectation, and then successfully provide a professional, data-driven estimate instead of freezing, giving a hesitant answer, or admitting defeat. That, my friends, is the highest form of true fluency. Fluency is the ability to strategically manage and navigate a challenging conversation or scenario, not simply the absence of every single mistake. Let's practice that high-level, strategic navigation right now. I'm going to ask you a difficult, complex question that you likely cannot answer perfectly in 2 seconds. And I want you to use a strategic English phrase to give yourself a moment to think and manage the expectation. I want you to start with, "That is a complex issue, and before answering, I'd like to frame my response carefully and thoughtfully." Then give a short, simple, 2-sentence answer. The question is, what is the biggest future ethical challenge facing your current industry or your chosen career path, and how will language play a part in solving it? Say your strategic phrase, and then give a 1- or 2-sentence simple answer. Go. Did you successfully use the strategic phrase? If you did, you won a very high-level speaking battle purely through strategic language management. Celebrate that win. And what about Liam, the movie watcher? He decided to attend a cultural exchange event where English was the main required language of communication. His goal was not to lead a long intellectual philosophical debate, but to practice his real-world, conversational, functional English in an authentic setting. He walked up to a group of 3 people engaged in conversation and simply waited for a break, and then said clearly, "Hi everyone, I'm Liam. I'm new to these events, but I'm really enjoying the atmosphere and the energy here." Someone responded, immediately asking him a complicated, open-ended question about his work-life balance. He looked at them and, without panicking, said, "Wow, that's a deep dive. I might need a second to gather my thoughts before I can give you a proper answer." He used a new piece of natural idiomatic English he had specifically learned and practiced, deep dive, gather my thoughts. The people in the group laughed gently and waited patiently. He then explained his work and perspective in simple, effective, clear English. His win: successfully initiated a conversation with strangers and used an appropriate natural idiom, deep dive, and a polite managing phrase, gather my thoughts, to effectively control the pace and complexity of the response. Liam didn't need to be a grammar expert or an academic. He needed to be a good, engaging, strategic conversationalist. The celebrated small wins gave him the practical, real-world tools to be exactly that. And Chen, in the book club, continued to build his foundation. He eventually found himself naturally and comfortably leading a small, impromptu discussion group within the larger club. He wasn't the most verbose or complex speaker, but he was consistently the most thoughtful, clear, and inclusive speaker. He had mastered the high-level art of listening intently to others, confirming his understanding with clear questions, and then adding a relevant, concise, and clear contribution. At the final book club meeting of the year, a member who had noticed his long-term progress asked him directly, "Chen, your English and your confidence have improved so much since you started. What, genuinely, is your secret?" Chen smiled and said, simply and profoundly, "My secret is that I stopped looking for the huge, sudden changes and started celebrating the tiny, daily, small ones. I finally realized that a 1-degree correction in my focus every single day will get me to a completely different, successful place in 1 year." That quote is so critically important that I want you to internalize it. A 1-degree correction every day will get me to a completely different place in 1 year. A year. Your small, daily wins are those 1-degree corrections. They are not noticeable immediately, on any single day, but over time they completely change your trajectory, moving you from the path of frustration to the path of sustained, confident fluency. You are building confidence one small, celebrated victory at a time. I want you to internalize this idea one last time through a final listening and speaking practice. Listen to this summary statement about the true nature of confidence. Confidence in English is not about never falling down. It's about how quickly and willingly you choose to stand up, dust yourself off, and celebrate the single important fact that you tried in the first place. Listen again, feeling the determination in the words. Confidence in English is not about never falling down. It's about how quickly and willingly you choose to stand up, dust yourself off, and celebrate the single important fact that you tried in the first place. Now, say that final phrase out loud, making it a permanent motto for your English journey. I will stand up and celebrate the single important fact that I tried. This is the end of the story, but it is the powerful, positive beginning of your new mindset. From this moment on, I want you to be a dedicated small win hunter. Stop looking only at the mistakes and the distance left to travel. Start actively collecting the victories you earn every single day. Thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you for trusting English in Fluency to be a genuine, supportive part of your language journey. Remember the powerful strategies of Maya, Liam, and Chen. They achieved real, functional fluency, not by magically avoiding all mistakes, but by diligently building a vast mountain of small, consistently celebrated wins. Your confidence is not missing. It is simply waiting for you to notice and acknowledge it. Now, here is your one concrete, actionable call to action. I want you to open your calendar or a simple note on your phone and dedicate just 5 uninterrupted minutes tonight to listing 4 small wins you've had in English in the last week. They must be specific and measurable. Don't worry if they are tiny or seemingly trivial. Maybe you understood the complicated assembly instructions for a piece of furniture, or you correctly spelled a difficult word without checking, or you wrote a coherent email in English that was perfectly understood, or you finally understood the passive voice in a complex article. Write them down with clear, confident labels. My small win number 1. I understood the radio weather report's complex vocabulary today. My small win number 2. I sent a professional email to a colleague without using a translator. My small win number 3. I successfully used the correct preposition for after the difficult verb account in a sentence. My small win number 4. I spoke spontaneously for over 60 seconds about my day without pausing to translate. Writing them down is the ultimate final act of celebration and the key final step in rewiring your brain for sustained success and motivation. Don't let this be just another lesson you simply listen to passively. Make this the moment you commit to a new, powerful habit of positive reinforcement. If this lesson truly helped you change your perspective and feel more confident and motivated, please do 2 small, quick things for me, because those are wins for the English in Fluency community. First, please press that like button right now. It is a tiny 2-second action, but it tells us immediately that this content is helping you deeply on your journey. Second, in the comments section below, please share just 1 small win you've had in English today, or 1 win from this week. When you share it publicly, you celebrate it twice, and you become a powerful inspiration for someone else who is struggling to look for their own victory. Let's fill the comment section below with nothing but celebrations and small wins. I'm Alex, and I am so incredibly proud of the profound progress you are making, even the progress you haven't fully noticed or acknowledged yet. Keep celebrating those small, essential wins, and I'll see you next time on English in Fluency. Goodbye for now, and keep practicing with confidence.